It's about shape-shifting reptilians between human and reptilian, which these bloodlines, in their purest form, mind, can do. And, throughout history and cultures all over the world, you see, not just reptilian, but in many different forms, you see the story of shape-shifting. Now, when I started meeting people all over the world, I don't go looking for this, but I started meeting people from about 96, 97, who all over the world who were telling me stories about how they'd experienced seeing someone who looked human and turning into a reptilian figure and then going back again. And you think, hold on, when you hear one or two, you go, ooh, not sure about that. So you stick it on the back burner, and as I do, and I wait and see where it goes. Well, where it went was loads of other stories around the world of the same thing. Now, this is why the first part of today was so important, because if we don't understand the nature of reality and its illusory physicality, then, people say, you can't go from physical body to physical body and back again. No, you can't. I absolutely agree with you. But that's not what happens. The only place the shapeshift happens is in your head, in the decoding system. When you have an energy field shift, then you are decoding an energy field like, the energy form into the holographic form, and then when that energy field shifts, which is not solid, it's movable because it's energy, then you start to decode a different form of that energy. And to your perception, you see a apparently solid body human, then you see it reptilian, sometimes other forms as well, and then you see it human again. And of course, without understanding the nature of reality, you go, that's impossible. No, it's not. It's all gone on in your head. It's just like flicking a television channel zapper button from one to another. Now, hey, that's kind of relevant, isn't it? She should come up. I'm not getting a knighthood, by the way, in Britain. I think it's when I said she was a Satanist who shape-shifted reptilian. I think that cost me in the end. I'm not sure. So the physical form is a hologram. It's not solid, and that's why it can shift if you know what you're doing. Because it happens in there, within this short frequency range. So these entities, these reptilian entities, appear to exist just outside, as a matter of course, outside of visible light. So in the natural course of events, what we're decoding is that which exists within visible light. So we see humans everywhere. But just outside of visible light are entities that are anything but human. And this is where we see ghostly figures too. The reason a ghost looks ethereal rather than solid is it's not quite on the same frequency that we are. So when you get two radio stations that are not quite on the dial, you don't get sharp reception, you get what we call interference. This is a visual version of interference. And if we were on the same wavelength as the, quote, ghost, it would look as solid as you and me do. But because it's not, it looks ethereal. And this is a thing that has been a constant theme through this period since this subject entered my life. And that is of psychic people whose visual acuity is outside the norm, who've told me how they've seen reptilian-type, ethereal-type entities connected to people in human form through these lower two vortex points, what we call chakra points. And of course, one of the great themes throughout history and ancient peoples, right up to today, is that of possession. Possession by demonic entities that take over a person's mental, emotional, and therefore physical responses, perceptions, etc. And I started to understand why this hybrid DNA, these bloodlines were necessary. These entities operate just outside of visible light. As I said earlier, if I'm going to interact with this reality, I need a form within this reality to interact with it. So what they've done is created hybrid bloodlines which have a vibrational resonance because of the genetic makeup to these entities, which means they can make a vibrational possession with these particular bloodlines much more powerfully than they can with the general population, which all of us have tremendous reptilian genetics. I'll get to in a minute, but these bloodlines are and then some. And so this seems to be the game. You use your secret society network to manipulate these hybrid bloodlines into power, and as they go into power, what's really going into power is the entity possessing the physical body. But because we're only decoding reality within the visible light spectrum, when we look at these people, we see physical bodies. We see human George Bush. We see human Queen of England. But if you could just tease out, just beyond visible light, you would see overshadowing these people something very, very, anything but human. And so these people that end up in these positions of power, or a lot of them anyway, are vehicles. And so these are what I call come and go politicians who just come and go and all the rest of it. But all they are vehicles to allow these entities to manipulate this reality through their outer vehicle. So you have the politicians in the dark suits, then you have the shadow people, the advisors and all those people that have the real power in human form. And then you have behind them these entities that operate just outside of visible light and possess these entities and control their mental and emotional processes. And one important thing to stress, which will make a lot of sense of the world, is that one key aspect of this hybrid DNA, this pure one, this one that's more reptilian than general population, is that they don't have the most important balancer of behavior, and that is empathy. If I have empathy with someone who's going to suffer the consequences of my actions, that empathy stops me taking those actions. If I do not have the ability to empathize because that has been deleted from the program, then anything goes. Starving children in a world of plenty because of the way I manipulate the economy, I have no emotional consequence for that because I have no empathy with those people. Same with kids killed in Gaza. Look, it's gone back to Vietnam and before, and bombing cities full of civilians. To us who have empathy, wouldn't even consider it horrific, grotesque, my God. But without empathy, there is no emotional problem whatsoever. And so what we're looking at seems more and more clear to me is that these particular bloodlines that end up in the positions of power and behind the positions of power are possessed entities. On one level they're human, but if you could see further on, they'd be anything but human. Someone sent me this picture off the internet with this kind of reptilian eye. I'm not saying it might be just the light, whatever, I'm not saying that, but I'm using it as an example. So many people have told me how they've seen people's eyes shift like that into a reptilian form, which seems to be the first thing to go. But full body shifts are ridiculously common around the world, but of course not many people talk about it, because what do people say? You're mad. Now, I've got a friend who's an associate of an expert in iris development and all the rest of it in terms of the technology. I don't agree with it. The technology that uses your iris to read your code so you go through airports without going through the various checks and everything. Anyway, whatever. This guy who was doing this, he looked at 2,300 pairs of eyes as a result of researching this technology. He has no idea that my friend is a friend of mine or what I'm talking about. What he said to my friend is what surprised him greatly when he did this research, and when he's looking into eyes through microscopes, etc., is that of the 2,300 eyes he scanned, around 4% appeared to be of reptilian type and appearance. George Bush, somebody sent me that one. Again, it might be the light, probably is, but it's very symbolic. And again, we've got the Queen. Somebody produced that on the front of a magazine in Britain to, ridicule me. I thought, thank you very much, I'll use that. And again symbolic, but all these bloodlines, these royal bloodlines,